Israel this Saturday is continuing to strike targets across Lebanon, including an apartment building in a densely populated northern Beirut suburb that had also been struck a day earlier. Lebanese health authorities also reporting an overnight Israeli strike killed a dozen medical staff at a clinic in the south of the country. On a visit to Lebanon that began on Friday, the UN chief Antonio Guterres called on Israel and the Iran-backed Hezbollah group to stop the war. He also launched a $325 million humanitarian appeal to support Lebanon, where hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced since the 2nd of March. Let's hear from some Beirut residents now.
I was woken up at 4 a.m. yesterday and I heard the sound of a drone really close. And at 4:40 a.m. there was a strong explosion. The dust and rocks landed on our balcony. It was big, and today, the same thing.
Now we're really scared. There's no safety. You don't even know if you can go out for a short trip safely because you don't know where the next strike will hit. I'm sleeping in my car with my daughter and granddaughter because we're so scared. It's better to sleep in the car instead of getting hit by debris like this.
Well, for more on this, we can cross now to Noga Tarnopolsky, who's in Jerusalem for us. Noga, what exactly is Israel's strategy in Lebanon right now?
Good to see you, Haxi. The strategy Israel is presenting is confused at best, and it's unclear that there is a clear strategy. That said, if we return to the ceasefire that was instrumentalized by the United States back in November of 2024, the text of the declaration had it that Hezbollah had to disarm and had to move north of the Litani River, this crucial line north of Israel's northern border on Lebanon's southern border. Clearly, Hezbollah has not disarmed and has moved actually back south in recent weeks. So the launch of a Hezbollah missile in order to protest the assassination of its principal sponsor, the then supreme leader of Iran, was a trigger for Israel to launch what is an unprecedented series of airstrikes against Lebanon. Initially, really clearly against Hezbollah targets, but now, as of, I believe it was just yesterday, when Israel struck a bridge, one of the bridges crossing the Litani River. And as we hear more and more Israeli ministers and top government officials talk overtly of creating a buffer zone in Lebanese territory, which would be occupied by Israel, ostensibly to protect the Israeli north, what the strategy may be is very unclear. And I think that for now, Israel feels that it has an almost completely free hand in Lebanon because the United States appears to be rather uninterested in this conflict and is focusing all of its energies on Iran. That said, France has an interest here, even the UK has an interest, and to a certain extent, the White House will want at some point to reimpose its American ceasefire on the region. So I'm guessing here, I'm hypothesizing that Israel wants to act hot and fast in Lebanon before international forces kind of begin to put a stop to this.
And Noga, I will come back to you in just a minute, so please do stay with us. French President Emmanuel Macron has this Saturday said that France is ready to facilitate ceasefire discussions between Israel and Lebanon in Paris. Macron saying that Lebanon's leaders were open to direct discussions as he called on Israel to, quote, seize this opportunity to find a lasting solution. Noga, France offering to set up direct talks between Israel and Lebanon. That would be unprecedented were they to go ahead. What do you think is behind this move from President Macron of France?
So this is really a bit of a peek behind the scenes. France has attempted to have an important role ever since this conflict with Iran broke out, has sent actually military assets to the region, and Macron has articulated a position that few leaders have succeeded in articulating, which is on the one hand condemning what he calls an illegal war against Iran, while at the same time slamming Iran for attacking its neighbors, for attacking Israel, and for massacring its own citizens. France, of course, has a very long history in Lebanon. Now, I would tell you that this statement by the French president didn't matter much, but there are indications that it may actually matter. Yesterday, we heard from the US outlet Axios that Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, had appointed his former right-hand man, Ron Dermer, a man considered almost like a son to the Prime Minister, to handle everything relating to Lebanon. That was the first indication we had that Israel is being pressured, in fact, to somehow come to an agreement with Lebanon. And today we're seeing in Haaretz, the very prominent Israeli newspaper, and in other Israeli media, the announcement coming from Israeli sources that Israeli and Lebanese representatives are expected to meet for direct talks in the coming few days. So it does seem to be something cooking. I wouldn't yet take this to mean that any end of the war is close, but there may be significant Israeli pressure on Israel to act.
Noga Tarnopolsky reporting there from Jerusalem. Thank you very much.